All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast, episode number 217. We're coming at you with another relaxed Q&A episode with your host here and our good buddy, Mr. Zack Hall, who's on the road, on the way, already almost Texas bound. And he's joining us here tonight for the Q&A show. So if you guys got questions for us, get some questions here for Mr. Zack Hall. And maybe Zach will select a winner for some Outdoorsman coffee if we get some good questions going Zach's way. But what's going on, fellas?
I'll let Zach
Not much.
go first.
Just getting that road stank going on with this road trip down to Rayburn from Michigan.
That road stank. Road stank is a real thing.
I'm close to halfway there. I got like 10 hours left to go. Well, about 9 hours left to go, actually.
Is it nap time, or are you going to power through the night?
I may take a few hour nap. Because if I keep going, I'm just going to get there at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I might as well just sleep here and take it easy. I'm in no rush, really. Water's high, so everything's going to be weird no matter what.
Fair enough.
Yeah. We'll get into that whole deal here in a second. But I think first things first, hope everyone is having a great Memorial Day. I did not do any introductions here as I usually do. I told you it's a relaxed show, so my mind's kind of set off here. We don't really have a lot of things on task here tonight, unless you guys have some questions for us. We got some topics to cover, but as always, folks, I'm your host Bailey Eichbrett, and joined with me is the captain, Mr. Andy Full, and like I mentioned already, Mr. Zack Hall is down here joining us. Good buddy of ours. Zach is headed south towards Sam Rayburn for the Hobie BOS event on Rayburn, trying to get himself back on the top of the AOI list for Hobie BOS. That is the goal he's trying to achieve. And then Zach, I will be meeting you down in Texas on Possum Kingdom come this weekend. I'll be there Friday, but sounds like you're already going there. You got an event this weekend, and then you're missing a whole day of practice, right? You're missing Sunday's practice.
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, I figured why not fish Rayburn since it's right there. I was really not going to go. I was dead set on not going about 2 weeks ago, but I don't know. Just felt right. Water's going to be high. It might be tough. I like tough tournaments.
Yeah, you do excel in the grinders. But it sounds like it's going to be for Rayburn, because I believe Rayburn is 10 feet high?
Whew.
Yeah, last I checked, it was just over 10 feet.
Yeah, that
Is it 10 feet in rising or 10 feet in falling?
It's going to be raining all next week.
Rising.
I mean, we should be getting some kind of rain almost every day next week, so it's going to be coming up some more.
So you're going to be targeting people's back porches, essentially, is what you're going to go for.
Dude, there's going to be somebody catching a fish off of a picnic table. There's going to be somebody catching fish off of weird stuff. It's going to happen.
Flipping jigs and state park grills. There you go.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one right there.
Yeah.
Grammy.
So you're gonna get there tomorrow. So you're gonna have practice. Are you practicing tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll go out tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
No rush. I'll probably just be scoping out where I can actually legally access the lake, because a lot of the ramps are closed,
So tomorrow until Friday, event Saturday, Sunday. Then you're gonna run over Sunday night. You got Possum Kingdom practice Monday, Tuesday, and then event Wednesday, Thursday, and then we got the Bassmaster Classic.
Yep. Just all over the place.
I already got a question here for you there, Zach. He said he left Rayburn on May 20th. The place is Mammoth and Deep. Don't know what Mammoth means.
Like massive.
Oh, okay.
Massive.
That would make sense.
Like a woolly mammoth, Bailey.
I mean, mammoth, if you say woolly mammoth, that could mean massive, or it could mean like old.
Very hairy.
Yeah, very old. I don't know. What?
Mammoth hairy. It's a very hairy lake.
It's a very hairy.
It could be hairy.
How do you plan to dissect this gigantic place, meaning a starting spot?
Well, the cool thing about Rayburn.
He's asking you for spots, buddy.
It's the one lake on the Hobie BOS schedule that I actually have experience on. I fished there like 2 years ago in Mill Creek with a buddy, and we were just fishing random stuff, junk fishing. But I've got spots that I've really been wanting to get back to that I haven't, or areas. They're not really spots, general areas that were good 15 years ago, and I haven't been there since. So I'm just gonna hang around those areas, chase grass lines, find the most productive grass lines. I mean,
There might not be
there's
a grass line.
a lot of hydrilla there. Well, it'll be under the water.
So you're going to spend some time in practice probably having to graph for those grass lines versus actually looking visually this time.
Yeah, I'll be staying up shallow too. I mean, that's the thing. Like a lot of offshore stuff is probably going to get overlooked, but at the same time, I mean, if you can rough it in the jungle and actually get good casts in between trees and stuff, I mean, could be one up in there. It's really no telling.
Yeah.
But how I plan to dissect it is just start in some general areas that have history and go from there. Nothing crazy.
All right, so if I know Zach is going to throw first, he's going to throw a jerk bait. And then second is probably going to be a drop shot. And then third is a wild card because I don't think I've ever seen him throw anything
Whopper flopper.
else.
It's going to be a whopper flopper.
Yeah, well, it's going to – I was definitely thinking about putting on a plopper. Over some grass that used to be emergent, but it's now submerged.
Vastly submerged.
Yeah.
All right, hit us with the third bait. I'm curious.
Oh, the third bait, got to have a big old worm tied on at Rayburn. You got to. At least
like
10 inches long.
Like a swimming worm or like a ribbon tail? Or what?
Like a big old monster worm. It's no secret on Rayburn.
Charles Blood asked if you think it'll be one fishing flooded areas or offshore.
That's 50-50 because it just depends on how many people are going to overlook stuff. Like, look at Table Rock last year at the KBF event. Like, water was up like 16 feet and fish were still in the same spot they were before the water came up. This could play out just like this, and just depends on how many people actually want to go offshore, I guess.
Yeah.
The wind's not going to be bad, so you bet your badonkadonk I'll be out offshore a little bit.
I feel like I'd be very curious to learn like what that crazy of rising water does to offshore fish. Like obviously I feel like it was postponed enough for a lot of those fish to move off. So like once they move off, when there's rising water, I wonder if those fish that are offshore in deeper water even I'm sure they know that water is rising, but like I wonder how it affects them. I feel like they wouldn't have like a need to push shallow, whereas those fish that are already shallow and watching their ceiling get a little bit higher will follow it easier. But like those fish offshore, I feel like aren't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, there's not much reason for them to go deeper if it's just already filling up on them. And I've never fished it with it this high. I've only fished it a couple feet high, like a long time ago. I mean, so to be honest, I don't really know exactly what to expect, but I got a general idea, you know.
You're kind of going to a new lake, technically.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of hydrilla, and I know areas that used to be productive.
You can just build off of that and run with it.
That's more than I had at Seminole. That's more than I had at Broken Bow. So, be a nice change of pace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. You got a good one here. We got our buddy John King in the chat, and he says, when you hear Kentucky, what are your stereotypes and why?
Oh, man.
I'll let you guys go first here.
I
thought I heard a banjo. My bad. I'm in Missouri right now.
That's funny because I don't even think of Kentucky when it comes to stereotypes. I instantly jump to like the border state in West Virginia, and I start singing like, that West Virginia Take Me Home song. Yeah, so that pops in my head instantly. But
John Denver.
My first two thoughts is I hope everyone is like John King. And two, they have a ton of good bourbon, and I actually want to get to Kentucky. So, yeah, I don't really have stereotypes for Kentucky people.
Yeah, I don't know if I have stereotypes either. It's like Alabama and pretty much just Alabama. Oh, Florida? Yeah. Florida, it's all psychopaths and then old people, and that's about it.
Well, nobody in Kentucky wears shoes.
Really?
They all drink L8. Majority of people that live in Kentucky know how to play a banjo, I think.
I don't know, John. Are you in the chat still? Let us know if you know how to play a banjo. Let us know.
Just say I.
No. Kentucky has like some of the best deer hunting in the country for Boone and Crockett whitetails. That
True.
ain't no joke. That's
That
like
is
one of
very
the top states. I've been wanting to go hunt Kentucky public land for a long time. I just haven't got around to do it.
See, Charles Blood is chiming in saying the biggest stereotype is that KFC is the best chicken, but doesn't compete. It just doesn't compete with some places. I'm sure there's some better places than KFC. But John, if you're still watching right now and you know how to play a banjo, I'm just gonna send you an email invite, and I want to listen to you play the banjo. Let us know if you know how to play. I will send you an email invite, and I want you to play and prove it. Jim Beam
sweet.
Factory tours and tasting.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is still closed because of COVID and stuff. And I think there might have even been like a bad flood that affected one of those. Bourbon, like a distillery, I think a bourbon place would be called, right? Is that it?
That sounds right.
Yeah, so
I don't know. I'm not a moonshiner.
Yeah, I don't know all my liquor terms, but
me neither. I drank it. I didn't make it.
Fair enough.
Dude, like that, I guess for me, like the only thing with Kentucky that really comes to mind, like the first thing, just being a fisherman now, is just like Adrian carp. But other than that, like there ain't much that comes to mind besides like horse derbies. Other than that, I don't really think much about Kentucky besides like college basketball.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could say
college football.
Wildcats or Cardinals, and that state is like equally divided, one or the other, because they're on basically opposite sides, I think, too, of the state. So
I'd take Louisville over Kentucky personally, but
it's not Louisville, it's Louisville.
Louisville, sorry.
You gotta say it like the locals. Louisville.
Yeah, it sounds like they don't even open their mouth.
You say Louisville when you're in Kentucky, and people look at you real fast, and there's like a whip crack sound, like they look at you.
I thought you were gonna say banjo.
You hear the whip first, and then you hear the banjo.
It's a slow build up.
What do you say? What do you say?
Biggest Kentucky stereotype: big smallmouth. I don't know. I think you're thinking about the North, bud.
Cumberland does have big smallmouth in it.
Okay, but how big are big smallmouth? Are we talking South big or are we talking North big?
I think there's like 3 to 4s. Like I think they have to be either 16 or 18 inches away, and they're just long and skinny. I know Kentucky, because of the Tennessee River, Kentucky Lake does have 5 to 7 pound smallies in it.
Yeah,
I know that one for a fact.
I think it's a rare occurrence, whereas like a 5 pound smallie here isn't a very rare occurrence.
Yeah, that is true. It's just
not saying they don't have big smallies. I never contribute. I mean, maybe it's just my nearsighted vision here that I don't think about Kentucky as big smallmouth. But he was saying they don't have them. Okay, sorry, Charles, I misunderstood you.
Oh,
Rick, I'm going to a new lake this weekend. The lake has smallmouth in it. I normally target largemouth. Where should I look for the smallmouth? I'm located in Northeast PA. I would first go to any flat that's on the lake and look for them spawning.
Yeah,
rock and flat.
Yeah. If they're not spawning, but you see like beds are there, like go to the nearest drop, the closest deep water access to that area, and that's probably where you'd find them. Especially if you're Northeast PA, then I'm trying to think. Northeast PA is like probably like 3 hours for me, Andrew.
Yeah, ish.
So they're probably spawning. If not,
it sounds like he's talking about like Lake Wallen Pawpack, and
I don't know anything about that lake.
From my understanding, it's just rock and it's junk fishing, and we're starting to get to a spot where there's going to be some post-spawn smallies probably in that lake. They're probably done spawning. Honestly, I would just go to traditional areas that you think they would be, especially flats off of good spawning areas, and throw a popper around. Because if there's fry, a popper gets post-spawn, especially smallmouth, to fire on it all the time.
Yeah, throw it around a topwater, spinnerbait, burn it around, and you'll probably run into them pretty quick if they're in the area.
Yeah. And if you get
smallies are nuts.
Big gravel flats, too, like if there's a big gravel flat, let's call it like 8 to 12 foot, you could even throw like a Carolina rig with like a speed craw and probably catch them pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely go target the flats first if they're not there, or like you see evidence that they were just spawning, just move right off of it, and you'll probably run into them.
Don't forget your Ned rig too.
I'm surprised you didn't say jerk bait or a re-range.
Well, yeah. I mean, always gotta have that.
I don't think do you own a Ned rig, Zach?
Oh yeah, I've got a bunch of Ned rig stuff. I mean, I've always got a Ned rig tied on up north for sure. Gots to. Anywhere rocky.
Going back to Sam Rayburn here, what do you think it's going to take to win?
There's a lot of big fish in there. I don't know. I'm going to say you got to have in the 90s each day.
So, like, are we talking like
low 90s each day? You know?
So, like, an average for 90 inches is like all 18s. Are we talking like a consistent 90 inches, or are we talking like a 22, 23 incher and then some 17, 16 type of deal?
Well, yeah. As long as you get that low 90 point, however you get there, I would say. You know what I mean? However you can do it.
Fair enough.
I don't know. There's a lot of big fish in Rayburn, and you could catch a freaking 24-inch kicker out there. You know, I mean, depends on how long. You might catch 25-incher. Ain't no telling. There's some gigantic fish.
Well, let's go 28 then. I want to see you catch 28-incher.
It's a good thing I got the big catch board.
I was just thinking about that today. So today I was packing up the car because I don't know how much time I'm going to have the next 2 days to like designate to packing, getting ready to leave Thursday. And I'm putting my catch board into my car, and I see the 26-incher, and I look at my dad. I'm like, I've seen some 12-pounders on Instagram, like people are catching out of PK. And I'm like, I am screwed if I have this board because it's not going to fit on the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because like they get pretty dang close to 26 inches down there. Those big ones.
Yeah, I've never caught one in that range, so lengthwise, it'll be neat to see one up
mammoth.
close.
That is a mammoth fish.
Yeah. I'd be very curious what the longest bass ever recorded was. What do you guys, before I look it up here, because I'm going to look it
That's
up.
That's the thing. Like, okay, so you think of Dottie out in California. How long was she? Everybody knows how much she weighed.
Right.
I mean, 25 something on the last catch?
Yeah. I don't remember.
I was going to say somewhere between, snagged. I want to say that Japanese one, the world record, I think was like 28 inches.
Really? That's nuts.
It was long.
29 inches was the 22-pound record set by Manabu Kurita.
Lake Biwa.
Lake Biwa was 29 inches long.
Oh, there you go.
Use my squeak. That was.
You should be fine with the 20. You should be fine with the 26-inch board in Texas.
Yeah.
Never know.
It was more of like a moment of I really hope that this board is too small, but either way,
everything's bigger in Texas.
True. PK is gonna be a lot of fun. I think what's gonna be really fun about this lake, beyond just that it's the first ever Bass Kayak National Championship, is that there's not a lot of public info on it. You could see actually the info that is out there on it is within the last 3 months. So people have obviously seen that the national championship is going to be there and using that as an avenue to create content for it to draw views. So now there's a little bit of content, but like if you look three months prior, there is no content, like literally maybe 2 or 3 videos, a couple articles, but they don't give out any info, which I think is going to make practicing for this a lot, like it's gonna make it really interesting. There's a couple locals, so I think they have the upper hand, but it's just gonna be pretty interesting to see what's gonna go down.
Yeah, it's more known for being a freaking striper lake, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I've read more about is the striper in there.
Yeah, it's that's one thing where it's like,
are they wipers or stripers?
Stripers,
like strippers. Big strippers.
Big old things.
Stripping line strippers.
That'll be interesting. It might make practice for those targeting offshore fish interesting because you might run into some and they might waste some time. Like, but we'll see. We'll see how she goes.
Like them dadgum pike and muskie up north. I hate them things.
Chain pickerel are like the worst thing ever in New York.
Really?
Yeah. You can throw those things pretty far.
They're like little darts.
They're
That's still
very
there.
aerodynamic. I've heard.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I mean, this is kind of a funny story. Just reverting back on the guide trip today, I had like a little cutie pie, like a 1 pounder, and I just kind of like tossed it back. And like the Norwegian like belly flop competitions,
Yeah,
like they just like freeze. So I had the fish in the belly, and I was like, "See you later, cutie pie," and it like went straight as a board, and just like 1 foot off the water, just belly flopped. And just the biggest splash for 1 pound. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, you got a -10 out of 10, buddy. Like, you are not making the Olympic diving team.
Have you ever seen that? What is it? What is it like? Death diving or death?
Yeah, it's something ridiculous. They like run and like spin and just go straight as a board and hit the water. It's like,
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Big toothy. Okay, so Charles said, if you're against big toothy fish when bass fishing, how's it going to go with those big toothy lizards? I'm assuming lizard means gator.
Yeah, I ain't nothing to worry about. I grew up around alligators.
Zach ain't
Alligator
afraid of
ever gets
them.
too-
I'm like, yeah, no thanks. You can have the water.
yeah.
I'll see you later.
Have you ever ridden an alligator?
I've ever ridden one? No.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I've caught a few barehanded though when we was frog gigging.
Nice.
Frog
Two
digging.
or 3 footers, perfect hand grabbing size.
Right behind the head.
Just grab them, get a good look at them, throw them back. Leave them be.
Leave them be.
You saw some big
They
ones
hurt
on
nothing.
Fork, dude.
Yeah, I found the big one. I found Fred. If you've ever been to Fork and Little Caney, there's a giant alligator out there. Apparently, the locals named Fred, and he's like 12 feet long. I thought he was a log, and I was trying to push through the grass, get up there, and flip by this log. And I get up, and he was like really, really black. He was really, really dark alligator. And I got up to him. I'm like, holy crap, that is not a log.
That's not a log.
An alligator. Just like I slowly turn around, like because I was coming up on him, so. All he had to do was like leave in a hurry, and he could have like flipped me. And it's not like he's gonna eat me, but when they're that big, you do kind of got to worry about what kind of wave they could put off on when you get right up on them.
Yeah,
that was a little sketchy. I got pretty close to him.
You saw some crazy stuff down there, dude. You saw like some giant freaking snakes and crap, and I was just like, this is not New York. This is weird.
No place like home.
Yeah. I was like, nope. No thanks. But all right, let's see. So talking about Texas here, it sounds like there's some flood warnings going on down there, which is obviously Sam Rayburn's 10 feet high, but it could play interesting to the 2 events going down next week for obviously the national championship, but also for the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah, I haven't even looked to see what the water is like at Possum Kingdom. I don't even know what the water level's like there. I know they've been getting a lot of rain that way. I mean, it's not that far.
Luckily, I mean, for us, I guess, because Possum Kingdom is a river system because it is connected to the Brazos. So there is chance that it can muddy up pretty crazy. But I think looking at the forecast here, I got it up on my other screen. It's thunderstorms right now as of this moment. But other than that, there's a few tiny little scattered thunderstorms this weekend. But beyond that, next week is mid-80s and partly cloudy with 5 to 10 mile an hour winds. So it should, knock on wood, we should have ourselves a good derb. But something interesting that Drew Gregory pointed out to me, and we actually had a little debate about this for a while, and I'm interested in your guys' take on it, is talking about Lake Ray Roberts. He said that there's actually smallmouth in it. There's decent smallmouth in it. I personally don't think that any of the guys are going to target them because I don't think they're winning fish. So no one's going to waste their time in the Classic going for them. But he seems to think, and has apparently talked to Hank Cherry, who said that they're decent ones and people might target them. What's your guys' take on that? Do you think?
I don't think at this time of year there is a big enough population to target groups of smallmouth. It'll kind of be like how we are up here in the north for a lot of our lakes. Like you'll be flipping milfoil or fishing timber or fishing riprap, and all of a sudden you just kind of catch 1 or 2. And I don't think somebody's going to consistently catch them over the 3 days, but you might see a couple wade in.
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty strange. I mean, if you find some good areas with some current and it's set up right, you could find them just happen to be grouped up in the same spot.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of a weird. You'd have to stumble upon the perfect scenario, I guess.
Yeah.
It depends on how many's actually in there. I don't know.
It'll be. I think the only time they'll ever be targeted is if a guy's got a giant bag and just needs one more. Like he's got 4 bigs and just needs a fish. Maybe they're in there for that reason that there's just a lot of them, but there's not size. I don't know the deal, but you brought it up, and I figured I'd bring it up here. But it would
be really cool to see one of those guys get up on stage and pull one of them out the bag.
Yeah. Like Ray Roberts, Texas. Here's a smallmouth.
Yeah. Well, what was the one Texas fest they fished on the Texas-Oklahoma border?
Tell me what you were watching, Andy.
He was fisting.
Oh, I don't remember the name of the lake, but there was
2 guys, 1 boat.
2 dudes, 1 kayak. We told y'all it's a very laid-back show tonight. We apologize that time.
We're gonna get the tandem kayak for this one.
Oh boy. 1 seat though. 1 seat.
Yeah.
So I lost my entire train of thought. So hold on. Keep going and I'll come back to it.
No, it's okay. So
we can't keep talking about that.
No,
I'm not talking
about that at all.
This anymore.
I'll change the subject here.
Lake Texoma. Casey Ashley weighed in a few smallmouth during that Bass Fest.
Texoma is like border Oklahoma, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we put out on social media the other day talking about different topics and such that people might want us to cover. So I have here a list of a few good ones that we can start getting into. And some of them might even transpire into like dedicated shows for these topics, but I think there's something good that we can kind of use as talking points here. One of the questions, and one that I think is really interesting, is does color really matter? And talking about, I think we kind of break this down, talking about plastics, talking about hard baits, talking about dragging or speed, water clarity. You can like this is one of those ones that you could break into an entire episode on just does color really matter? And personally, just to kind of start things off, I think color is important, but I think it is important for contrast. But I think when you break down talking about specific colors of a certain spec, I don't think it's that important. Personally, I like to keep things relatively basic, and I haven't had any issues thus far. But I'm very curious what you guys have to think. Zach, what's your take on the whole color deal?
I like to keep it as basic as possible, and I'll just use because I jerkbait fish so much, so I'll just use that as the starting point for this. If the water's super, super clear, I just try to throw the most natural jerkbait I can. Like if it's super, super clear up north, I'm just going to throw a re-range and like yellow perch pattern, like on St. Clair, because they're always gobbling down yellow perch. But I also throw like a Secret Shad 2 type color just because it's kind of translucent and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of a random color. But when the water's like stained up, like on Seminole, I was throwing a matte white jerkbait a lot. And me and you've talked about it before. In that stained water, they can see it from farther away because it's almost got like a glow around it, like a hue. It's not flashing or anything. It's just
got an
like
orb.
Under the water. And you can see it with your own eyes, with your polarized glasses, even without them. You can see it. And that's what I like using in a little bit stained water. And it is, somewhat pretty natural, resembling a bait fish color. That's super clear water, like very, very natural-ish, and stained water, something that's gonna pop.
Right. It's like they talk about is like stained water when it's cloudy, black and blue, or a darker shade, and then when it's light out, like a white chartreuse, something that's gonna glow. I think contrast is the biggest thing. Contrast and action of your bait and shape. I think shape plays a big factor in triggering those bites because obviously you're matching that forage. So I think that's pretty critical. But Andy, what's your take?
I think I only own 3 colors when it comes to flipping and jigs: green pumpkin, watermelon, and black and blue. Don't really do much flake stuff. I think scent is way more important than really the bait color itself because you can go through a grass mat and throw 3 different colors of baits, and if your presentation's correct, you're going to catch fish on all 3 of them basically the same amount. It's more confidence and presentation, in my opinion. But then when you get to moving baits, it's black, blue. It's basically the same thing, black, blue, green pumpkin, or you add in white depending on the sunlight, cloud conditions, clarity of water. But it's pretty simple, basic stuff.
Yeah. The fish don't know what shade a crawfish is supposed to be at a certain time of year. They're going to eat a crawfish if they want to eat a crawfish, no matter.
They're going to see what's moving because they're opportunistic feeders, and they're going to eat it.
And every crawfish, if you go to like just like a bait store and you take a handful of craws, they'll all have different color patterns.
Yeah.
In different parts of their body. Besides the claws. The claws are always orange usually when they come out of one of those bait ponds. But they all have different shades on their hue shades on their shell, and then some will be like pearl, some will be really dark. So
just want them to be able to find it.
Yeah.
Find what you're throwing.
Yeah, I just think as fishermen we get too wrapped up in the craze of all the fun, crazy colors that come out, like El Diablo in missile baits, like the D-bomb. That red, yellow, and whatever other color it is. It's just too much. Yeah, it might work from here or there because it's something different in contrast. But other than that, I don't think color matters all that much.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting topic. I really think that, obviously, I think action and like your basic makeup of your bait and how that kind of plays like together, I think is the most critical part. But like Mark Sexton from Berkeley, we're going to actually have him on after the Classic. I spoke with him already. He's going to come on. We're going to do a Monday Night Live show so that you guys can ask him some questions because that's going to be a really interesting one because like his job is bass behavior. So it's really cool to see kind of the R&D behind the Berkeley plastics that have obviously been as a staple as they are. So it's kind of interesting to see what goes behind everything. And like that question is one, like I mentioned, we could literally do an entire episode on. So we are going to do an episode on that with Mark after the Classic. So you guys can look forward to that one. But I wanted to throw it out because I wanted to get your guys' initial takes on it. But it kind of seems like a general consensus. And I agree, Andrew, on the scent thing. So, I think, and the one thing we can talk about too with Mark is like the scent thing for smallmouth versus largemouth, which we got into in recent episodes. Is like for smallmouth, it might be more crucial than largemouth because largemouth are kind of stable. They're kind of stationary and they don't move a lot, whereas smallmouth are like never sitting still, if very rarely. So it's kind of one of those things that we can kind of get into.
Yeah, like on St. Clair during the summertime, they can pursue a tube from like 70 feet away.
Something like that. 50, I mean, something crazy.
50, 70 feet away. And if you get it right and with your scents up current of them or whatever, and they sniff it, oh, God, they can come from even farther probably. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it like sharks can smell from a mile away. I don't know what bass are in relation to that, but like fish can smell and fish can smell pretty damn good. And it kind of like, I mean, in a current situation, if you're down current, obviously that rapidly increases their chances of picking onto that scent trail, but fish smell, and it's one of the things I heard in Iowa when I was on that trip that is something I think has helped me kind of shape some things down, at least for moving forward, is to remember that bass don't see things the way you see them. So like there's only limited amount of colors that a bass can see, which is another thing obviously we'll get into when we have Mark on the show. But like remembering that bass can't see what you're seeing as crystal clear as you're seeing is huge because they rely on their other senses. They rely obviously on scent so predominantly, but they also rely on the little hairs that, we hear about the lateral line. The lateral line is essentially these tiny little hairs that are up and down their entire body, and they kind of move and pendulum. And if any of those specific hairs get moved, that's how they feel. And that just the smallest amount of movement can make those hairs move. And that's what makes those sensors react and why those fish, like there's a reason why fish, you can cast behind them and they'll turn around and know it's there. They can feel that movement, which is kind of crazy. And obviously we'll get into this with Mark after the Classic. But
That's pretty cool.
It's a super cool conversation to go down when you learn about kind of the whole biology of a bass and how they actually act, and kind of see how they transition from like fishing pressure and learn, because bass are a lot smarter than people really attribute. I mean, bass are stupid, but bass are smart, if that makes any sense.
Their brain that's about that big.
But it's very complex at the same time. They're dumb because they'll eat a Senko 200 times, but like they're still pretty smart at the same time.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's just me saying it just because
They have a lot more senses than us.
True.
That
Way
makes sense.
stronger usage of their senses.
Yeah.
Definitely. Let's see. We got a question here from Jesse Cooper, excuse me. When fishing with limited time, what helps you put your confidence bait down and work on different new techniques? I'm a jack of many trades, but a master of only the Ned rig because I never put it down.
Don't bring your Ned rig next time you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say my tip number 1 is leave the Ned rig at home.
Yep.
If you really want to get good at something, or you want to try to learn something, just take that rod out. Even if you don't catch anything, just figure it out until you do. Chances are, if you fish something long enough on a day, you're probably going to get bit, unless you're just an imbecile. So you are going to get bit. I mean, unless you're me. I just drop shot all the time. So
That's like Erie, that's an exception. You don't really need to do anything else.
it's fair.
Yeah. I mean, fair. I don't think I really have anything different to kind of critique on that question, because like the best way to learn is obviously try. And if you're not trying anything else, you're not going to get better at anything else. So you literally just have to designate time to go in and doing that. Like whether it's a new bait, it might even be the same presentation, but a new bait that just kind of acts different. You got to go and catch fish off of it. I think if you're fishing a limited time, like go to a place where you're going to get a lot of bites. That's probably your best way to increase that learning curve.
Farm pond.
Like, I mean, I think a great example. So like there's some lakes around here where you might not catch a lot of fish, but you'll catch some giants. Whereas like a lake like Honeyoy, like Andrew loves, I'll go there to get bites because we want to learn a certain pattern, but there's not bigs there. Yeah. I just wanted to take a crack at Andrew's favorite lake.
No big fish.
There's I don't know why people hate on that lake so much. It's like the only lake that consistently has grass, and you can fish it however you want. And I've caught 2 over 6 out there. So the whole story of no big fish.
2 over 6 in a lifetime versus like multiple over 6 at other lakes in a single season.
Yeah, but I get to fish it how I like to fish. I like that. So
you can do that on every finger lake. Come on now.
Yeah, but I just have more time there. So that's why I like it so much.
He's going to retire.
Expand your horizons, Andrew.
I do. I do. Like, I fish a lot of places.
Here's an interesting question. I don't know if he's going to like my answer. Charles Blood, what scent are you picking out of garlic and coffee? And I'm going neither.
Yeah, I was about to say neither, huh?
I'm going, and I've honestly been swayed, and I know I've talked about it, and it might be getting annoying at this point, but I'm going power bait or max
because they've done enough scientific research that they haven't had a lot of positive results out of coffee and garlic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By now, at this point in time. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe not, but
if I had to choose between garlic and coffee, I'm going coffee all day because I can't stand the way garlic smells when I open a bag inside my house. It reeks for a week.
Oh, so, I love garlic.
I love
got
garlic.
Some Bang spray that I squirt on my spaghetti sometimes.
Oh. But I mean, like, we have coffee scented jigs from Queen, which are dynamite, but I think there's some other things that go into play there as to why they're so good. So
yeah.
It's a lot of R&D. Like, and why I won't throw garlic or coffee. I mean, if you're throwing a reaction type of deal, like say you're flipping a rage bug or a rage crawl, something that has that coffee scent on it and it's reaction bite. I mean, the scent doesn't even play a factor into that. But like, I literally watched this video footage that Berkeley has like accumulated talking about like garlic and coffee and how bass are naturally afraid of these scents. They stray away. Not, I would say afraid, but they stray away. They'll see it and they'll tend to swim away. Whereas what they've done with Berkeley and Maxon, it's pretty ridiculous because one, they eat it right away and they don't let go. And this is something obviously I don't want to talk about now because this is a lot of what we'll get into with Mark and he can kind of explain it. But like, fish don't like garlic and coffee, at least bass. They don't. So it's gonna be interesting. Let's see. Steve says, "Are you tweaking the jerkbait in any way? Adding more split rings to lower hooks, adding weight to it?" I'm interested to see, Zach, what you have to say about it. The only thing I'm doing and tweaking is like changing hooks, but that's really about it. And you got to be kind of careful what hooks you're changing and what jerkbaits because it'll throw off the weight transfer. But beyond that, Zach, I'm kind of curious because you're the jerkbait junkie out of the three of us.
I just replaced the hooks, the same weight hooks that were originally on them. And if I want to go deeper with a jerkbait, I'm going to get a jerkbait that's designed for that. I mean, I haven't dove down the rabbit hole of adding weight strips and, bigger split rings to get them canted different in the water. I haven't messed with any of that because I haven't really had to. I mean, I've had enough success buying these jerkbaits and using them exactly for what they're already made for, whether it be a shallow crankbait or jerkbait or a deep crank or jerkbait. Keep saying crankbait, my bad. No, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I know people that do that, and in the right situation, it's probably going to shine pretty good. But I don't do any crazy modifications to them.
Yeah, the Ben Nowak got me on doing something, and it's kind of interesting because I have seen some better effects of it, better hookup ratios, and it's like adding neon or chartreuse highlighter to where your treble hooks are, the front two or front one, which if you're throwing a 2 or 3, and that'll kind of supposedly the idea is to give those fish targeting, like a target point, something to pinpoint on when they eat the bait, so that they try to focus more on the front of the bait. Therefore, they naturally would get more hooks in their mouth. Versus if you had it say towards the back or nothing, they might eat the back of the bait and only get 1 or 2. You know what I mean? Whereas if it's in the front, they might T-bone it, and you better have a better hookup ratio, which has worked for Ben. I've noticed it in a couple in instances when I've put it on there and I've switched around that it's worked and I've gotten more T-bones, but there's been times where it hasn't helped at all. So it's kind of one of those things where I think maybe it's a confidence situational, but
yeah, because the jerkbait is one thing that a fish is going to stare at for a long time before it decides to bite it. Usually, you can see that on live scope every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have a lot of fish checking it out, and
especially smallmouth. Like I had one today show itself about 45 feet from the boat, and it literally every time I twitched it, it would follow it like in direction of the twitch, and then when it would pause, it would back off.
Yeah,
and I would twitch it once, and it would come right up to it and then back off. It was like a 5.5 pounder to chase it all the way to the boat, and then just stopped and swam away. I was like what?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a great segment we can go off of that. Isn't it kind of interesting? And a lot of people make this mistake, but there's a lot of times where like a fish is following your bait because of the action of your bait, and you see that fish follow. So you thinking follow it, you want to kill it so that it might eat it. But like naturally, majority of the time, I'm not saying every time, but majority of the time, if you kill it, that fish is going to turn away because the reason that they were drawn to your bait is because of the action. So you keep going, and then you're just kind of hoping, I guess, essentially hoping, or maybe you can give it a little bit of different action so that it can actually trigger and bite. Because like you hear about it with like, you talk about crankbaits, you talk about topwaters, you talk about, I think a great example is glide baits, or even like single swimmers, like single swim baits. You're constantly using that. You're constantly doing the action that you're obviously with your bait, but like you don't set the hook until you feel that the fish, like the weight of the fish on the rod. Because if you kill it at all, you're probably that fish is gonna go away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you guys agree? Disagree?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. It's so hard not to kill it whenever you're watching a fish, especially if it's a big one. It's just like a natural thing in your brain to say, "Oh, like stop twitching," and you're like waiting on something to happen, and you know, and every fish is different. I've had them smoke it right at the kayak,
Yeah.
like on a pause, like right in front of me, like high definition, 4K. Oh my God, you know, crazy. About to jump out of the kayak, like, oh my God. So cool. You know? So it all depends on the fish too.
Yeah. Like I think a great example is like a spook, topwater walking bait. Like don't stop walking it until you feel that fish on that bait. I think that's a great one to talk about. But like,
Yeah.
Let's see. Tequila Sunrise, power bait, 7-inch worms have been money for largemouth lately. Nice, Rick. I will be throwing little tidbit. I'll be throwing a 10-inch power bait Tequila Sunrise worm next week during practice.
Yep.
Don't know if I'm gonna get bit, but we'll find out.
Yeah. I have some. I have some too.
Yeah, I must say, if there's one thing I need to get better at, it is fishing worms. I am terrible at it because I don't do it.
Yeah,
well,
I've tried it a little bit in New York, but yeah, it's like throwing a football jig just with a big worm. Essentially, is what I've picked up. Like, I think I might have caught I think 7-inch worms is kind of like a different category than a 10-inch worm, but like a 10 and 12-inch worm here in New York, I'm sure they're eating it somewhere. I just can't freaking get them to bite it. And like, I'll throw it and I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, am I throwing this right now? And then I'll put it away. So I'm like, not even actually throwing it, but
yeah. I save all my big worm stuff for down south for sure. I don't do it a lot up north at all. Just doesn't feel right.
let's see. Okay, you can either use Berkeley Max Scent baits or you can buy any soft plastic you want, but they're unscented and you can only add 1 scent to them.
This dude's really dissecting it. We should give
I'm
him
using
some coffee.
I'm using Max Scent.
Yeah, me too. I'm using Max Scent.
Are you giving Charles some coffee then, Zach?
Might as well.
I think Charles, that's like his third bag.
He took the fork in the road and came back to the same question to get us to really engage on it.
All right, Charles. We already got your information, buddy, so we'll get you some coffee sent out. Like, you might as well. We're like Charles's subscription box for coffee at this point.
Oh, he's already won some?
He's won some. Like, I think we picked him the first time, and he's been picked now twice since by a guest.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I can't scroll and see the list of questions because I have to stay on this little
because you're on the
link
phone
screen. Yeah. So I can't go back and see if there's other people.
That's a you question here, Zach.
Is Lake Charles? It's out, man. That's right by where I grew up. Prion Lake's got some good specs and red fishing right by saltwater barrier over by West Lake. You can catch some giant redfish over there on top water and speckled trout. Worth a fishing vacation. Yeah, and you can go down south to Big Lake and go fish the weirs down there. There's a lot of good fishing there because you can go fish Calcasieu River for largemouth, and a lot of the elite guys used to run there whenever they fished Sabine. So it's good bass fishing in that whole area, saltwater and freshwater. Lake Charles. Spent a lot of time there growing up.
Heck yeah, Lake Charles. So Lake Charles is saltwater.
Yeah, so you got Prion Lake, and it's all saltwater. It's connected to the ocean. Obviously, you look at a map and you can see how it's all connected down through there. And then the saltwater barriers there in West Lake and Calcasieu River comes pouring down. Pretty cool.
That is interesting. Very interesting. Let's see.
All dirty water. Nothing clear.
Let's see. Here's a good one. So from the Instagram responses, we have reading graphs for beginners.
Ooh.
That's a really good one.
I'll tell you what I read on my graph is temperature and depth and look for structure and mark structure and the deep stuff. I don't get crazy. I'm not an expert on that. That's for dang sure.
This is coming from the guy that has Panoptics on his kayak.
He just stares at it when he twitches.
I'm not even bringing it. I'm not even bringing it to Rayburn or freaking
Possum
Kingdom.
Why? You saw what PW has done with the
I fish way better without it. Dude, I actually already sold it. I'll tell you straight up. I already sold it. That temptation is no longer there. I do way better without it.
Fair enough.
I caught myself way too many days staring, chasing fish, only to hook up with a freaking catfish on a jerkbait multiple times. I just don't want that for the rest of the season. It's completely affected the way I think when I fish, and I got to go back to my old ways. And that's the truth. Like, yeah. I'm not even joking.
I wonder if there's any pros that have done that. They just turn it off, or
see if I had a good foot control method on it, maybe I would use it more or use it more wisely out there. But I'm constantly sitting down, spinning it with my hand, looking around on the kayak and stuff. It's kind of hard to power fish when you're staring at the screen all day. You're eliminating so many casts that you should be making, catching a fish that's just hiding behind an object underwater that you can't see with live scope.
Right.
That happens all the time.
Right. Yeah. So, I think the best way for reading graphs as a beginner, in terms of, let's start with sonar, like a 2D or down imaging. Keep it at factory settings. I think the only thing you should really adjust is like a sensitivity. And I think probably 2D is probably one of the hardest ones, I think, to get used to know like what's a fish and what's not a fish,
or what's a tree, what's weeds, because it all looks very similar.
Yeah, I think that's probably the hardest one to adjust to. Whereas like a side imaging is pretty damn easy to adjust to and kind of read. I think once you can understand the layout of how everything is actually how you're actually reading it, it's super easy to realize what's going on. The best way to read side imaging. Go to like a pier or something, some lake that's got some crazy, that's like obvious structure, and just go and pass by it multiple times and just get it on your screen and get a feel for what you're looking at. Play around with kind of your contrast a little bit, palettes, if you will. That's probably the easiest way to do side imaging, and it's really not that hard once you get a hang of things to kind of figure out what's what on side imaging, because you're getting a pretty clear picture for the most part if you have it rigged up right. But like Panoptics and like Mega Live that's coming out, all that jazz, that's a whole different story. I mean, that's a setting I haven't played around with. That's super interesting stuff. But
yeah, it's gonna be pretty neat.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what else. 360 is it's like side imaging. 360 is just a side imaging in a full circle.
Honestly, like live scope is cool to me, but I feel like I would get lost in it if I had it. I personally believe 360 would be much more valuable to me in the style I fish, because I like to pinpoint targets. So if I can get a 360 view of where everything is and I'm spot locked, now I can cut down in my casting time instead of panning and searching with Panoptics. I can be like, oh, there's a rock there, there's a brush pile there, and I got weeds at a 65-degree angle, and I can see a fish kind of cruising the front of it. So in 3 casts, if you're spot locked, you can be like, okay, there's 2 fish in that brush, there's 1 fish on that rock, and then the weeds behind me, there's a couple. On the front, you can kind of break it down a little quicker with 360, I personally believe, instead of just spinning your motor around, because you can't really spot lock and use Panoptics, because if you have a slightly breezy day, that motor's going to be changing directions on you all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Kyle here says, I think he's talking about Panoptics. I use it to find structure that I know on the time and turn it off while I'm fishing. Otherwise, I waste too much time.
Yeah, I had the intentions on doing the same thing, and then I'd see a fish. And I'd be like, oh my God. I'd see another one. I'm like, oh, it's a big one. And I'm just like
chasing them the whole time and not actually focusing on much.
I caught more catfish on a jerkbait with live scope than I did bass the whole time I had it. I'm not joking. I caught like 5 or 6 good catfish that would come up to that jerkbait and chase it while I'm twitching it, and then they would smoke it. And I'm just freaking out till I get them to the surface. And it's like, oh, another 6-pound catfish. 6-pound catfish feels pretty big on a jerkbait rod.
So funny catfish jerkbait story. A couple of years ago, when I was a young little tadpole, I was fishing with my neighbor in Dunkirk Harbor on Lake Erie, and catfish were chasing gizzard shad in like 60-degree water. I think they're big smallies chasing like You're the Young Gizzard. I freaking throw my Yozuri out there. A perch color when I jerk it once. I hit this cat. It was like an 18-pound channel cat on jerk bait.
Good Lord.
Oh, you want to talk about heart-wrenching. You feel you've watched your line jump, so you lean into them, and then as you're leaning, it just kind of pulls you in. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was like 4 casts in a row, just giant catfish. This is just out insane.
At least you don't have to worry about catfish like immediately breaking you off.
That's true.
You get all snotty.
Yeah.
Get your line all snotty.
Yeah.
Very true. Let's see. Charles Blood asks, quick question. How do you think the rain will affect the tournament? Here in Oklahoma, the different cold fronts and warm fronts have our fish lockjawed. I don't think the rain's going to affect it at all. Looking at the forecast, it's going to be really nice next week. If the water is getting dirty at all, I think if anything, we might just even time it right, and the water's going to be that nice dinge and make the bigs not see as well, and it might be a little more apt to eat more. But I haven't heard of it being muddy right now. From a Ray Roberts standpoint and a Possum Kingdom standpoint, I don't think it's going to affect them at all. But I mean, there's different things you can do in cold fronts and warm fronts. I don't think a specific front is going to have them completely lockjawed. I think you still can go out and catch those fish. It's more of just adjusting to what they're going to do and what they're going to eat and what they're going to want to see versus, I don't know. What you guys take?
My personal opinion is I think we focus too much on the terminology of cold front and warm front. A cold front and warm front have nothing to do with really the way the fish react. It's the barometric pressure of the fronts when they happen and how long they prevail for. So if you get a high pressure system that moves in and it sits there but becomes stable high pressure for 5, 6, 7 days, after day 2, the fishing's going to get better.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's a cold front and that cold front hits instantly and it stays in longevity, let's call it a week-long cold front. So you go from like 80 degrees to 60 degrees every day. Initially, when that cold front hits, because barometric pressure is dropping, those fish are going to chew because they're like, crap, I got to eat because there's something weird going on. Mm-hmm. But if it stays cold, you might have a crappy day the next day. And then when the barometric pressure starts to rise on day 2, it might get a little better. By day 3, 4, or 5, if it's still cold, those fish are going to start eating again. So, but it's just they transition and do different things. So we just have to learn to react to them better. Because people still whack them on high pressure days. They just know how to adapt and fish to what the fish are doing or where they went or how they're feeding. Mm-hmm. So I've had some of my best days on cold front days when it's blowing 45 and peeing sideways. And by the end of the day, it's high pressure and sun. It's learning how to adapt and chase them. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing to point out.
Word. Fish are already wet. Rain ain't gonna hurt them.
That's true.
That's all I got.
So
when it's raining like that, if your legs got creek mouse, run to those creek mouse.
Well, it's extra oxygen too.
Exactly.
Yeah. They get a little bit of current, a little bit of oxygen. Get a little bait fish turned up, not them daggum.
Yeah, more of those creeks flowing into that main lake, the more, crayfish and bugs and crap that are going to come down, which will get the panfish and all the bait fish up shallow. And obviously, if those bait fish are up shallow, bass are going to follow them.
Boom. Can you play the Circle of Life from the Lion King right now? You got it on the soundboard?
Hey, Siri. Yeah. Garrett Dodson.
Stray cast soundboard up in here.
Yeah, right. Garrett Dodson says best bait caster.
I have not learned the bait caster yet, so I'm out on this one.
Backlash City.
Serious Tangler podcast only.
I love the Abu Garcia Revos and those new Zetas. Those are sweet.
I think it's a very open-ended question or statement, really. It's because you can talk about best bait caster. Yeah, I mean, you could talk about best bait caster for the South, because I'd go out on a limb saying there's a different answer for the South versus the North, because we get way colder temps. So you really can't really have any plastic reels in the north when you're going to fish ice out or late fall. I mean, there's best bait casters for under $100, for under $200. I mean, it kind of is open into question.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for me, I've been a recent fan of it, and Andrew got me into it. Is those Shimano MGLs, whether it's an SLX to a Corrado. I've never used a Metanium, but those MGLs are freaking on another level, and they're metal, so they're not going to break on you. But,
yeah, I was going to say the same thing. For $149, you get an SLX MGL. Once you get it broken in, today I was using my Corrado 8-1, which is a lefty, the 70 size, and I was throwing a 3/8 ounce 110 +1 junior about 70 feet into the wind, into a 20-mile-an-hour wind, and I didn't even have to use my thumb.
Nice.
Yeah. They're freaking sweet. I mean, they're pretty cool for like the Canandaigua tournament, our local tournament that I won, I don't know, a month back. I was using that SLX MGL, and I was flipping with a 15-pound fluoro. I had a Rage Bug, and I had an 1/8 ounce bolt weight, so fairly light. The MGLs are like meant to perform for lighter weights too. So like flipping that thing was a breeze. Like you didn't have to like mess with the settings at all. It was pretty dope. I'm a fan of the MGL so far, but like obviously I don't think anyone else, like a lot of people can. I shouldn't say anyone else. A lot of people can afford an MGL. I think the SLX MGL is what, 170, Andrew?
149.
149. Okay, that's not that bad actually.
So if for $100 or less, Revo X was probably the best $100 reel I found.
Oh yeah,
is it SLX
I've got 3 of those.
Is an SLX not $100 anymore?
It is.
I think.
I just haven't used it. Yeah, I just haven't used the standard SLX.
I'll go SLX. I have a loose speed spool at the LFS that's $100, and I have an SLX that's the basic model, and the SLX blows it away. That LFS it's nice, but like if it's under 45 degrees, good luck. I mean, that thing is gonna break on you. I wouldn't say break. I take that back. Not break. Like I'm talking like you'll set the hook and it'll just spool out on you. Like there's no like, it's just not meant for colder temps, which is all good. But like the Loose had made a good reel. I haven't used any of their new stuff, but like their old Pro G is legit. I got one of those, and those things are pretty sweet. But that's like I think it's a $250 reel at the time. So, but like the Revo X's, I think I've heard pretty good reviews on those for $100.
Just one little side note: always make sure you tighten the handles.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
I always try to check all my reels I buy. It's a good practice.
After like 10 or 15 fish, like every 10, 15 fish, check the reel handles on those Revo X's.
I've never had issues with those.
Set a hook on a couple of them a few years ago, and they just
really
in Zack Hall terms, yeah. Just like
falls.
Like, what do I do here now? I guess I'll inline that boy in.
That's what I'm talking about.
Tom here is a great point. Get the best you can afford. Often there's a mid-price range reel that will become a favorite. And honestly, dude, like Corrado K's now are only $170. Like if you can afford to pay a little bit more above, that entry-level price range, Corrado K's are freaking amazing.
Yeah. I've got a Black Max that I beat the crap out of, and it's still just fine, and I have it as a backup reel.
Which reel?
A Black Max.
Oh, like an $80 reel.
It's like 4 years old. I beat the crap out of that thing, and it's still just fine. I just got more expensive reels now, and I just put that one on the back burner. I'd use it tomorrow if I had to.
Yeah. All right. So Black Max, eh? My entry level reel into bait casters was a Abu Garcia Pro Max, the one level up from the.
I've had one of those. Those are good.
Yeah, silver and black.
Yeah, it still works, but like, that's 2 levels up because there's a Silver Max, I think it's called, which is up above the Black Max. But
I think it's below the Black Max.
Is it below the Black? Okay, I don't know.
I don't know. I forget the order.
No, I'm pretty sure it goes Black, Silver, Pro. Because I think the Black is $49.99, the Silver is $69.99, and the Pro is like $79 or $89.
Well, there you go. You need to be wearing this hat, sir.
I'm just a junkie.
He's already got it.
I'm just a junkie.
So the Pro Max now, it still works, but like you have to have the drag all the way up. Otherwise, there is no drag. There's only no drag, and then there's all the way, like locked down. And there's no in between. It doesn't work anymore.
Well, who uses drag anyways?
I do on jerkbait rod.
Jerk baits and cranking. Come on, man.
Just get a softer rod.
I got about as soft as you can get.
Dude, me too. I got a 610 moderate fast, medium light.
Good
Want to
Lord.
talk about soft?
Yeah.
You hit them and it bends all the way to the reel. You're like, oh boy.
There we go.
5 pound smallie. Oh jeez.
Boat flip them.
I do.
Heck
All
yeah.
day. 10-pound test.
Let's see, Zach, we got a good question here. And guys, keep the questions coming. If you guys have anything else want us to cover, let us know. But I think after this question, if we got nothing else coming in, we're going to wrap things up here. I'm sure Zach wants to get to sleep, as do Andrew and I. But obviously, if you guys have more questions, we are willing to keep it rolling here. But it is explain your kayak setup, how many rods, propulsion, tackle storage, all that jazz. And I don't think this requires like a very long answer. But I do think that Zach, you and I kind of vary in, I guess, how we set up our route. We have we have the same kayak. You have a 14, I have a 12. Same company or same kayak model, but I think we both set it up kind of different. So if you want to go first.
Well, I have a PA14, 2017 PA14 with the MD 180 drive. I can go in reverse or forward. And I have one of those Flambeau, I think it's a Tough Crate that I keep all my tackle boxes in. And I've got 8 rod holders on it going around it. And I can, it's either 7 or 8, something like that. And that's where I do all my rod storage back there. I don't put any on the side. I like the rod storage on the side, but I don't use it while I'm fishing. And I just have a little 19 amp hour. It's either 18 or 19 amp hour battery that I use for my Garmin 94 or 93 SV with the 54 transducer. And I have it mounted on like a 1.5 ram ball on the left side of my kayak. And pretty much my basic setup. Yeah. It's pretty basic. Nothing crazy.
It's worked so far. Yeah.
I like it.
I have the same kayak, essentially. I have the 12, not the 14. Mine's 2021, so I have the 360 Mirage drive, which is like the drive you can go any which direction you'd want. I do something different than Zach. Like all my rods, like I have the 12, so there's 4 horizontal rod storage spaces where you can lay them next to your legs. And they say you can only fit like 4 to 6 in it, but like I've debunked that theory with 12. So I fit as many as I can into that. And then I have on my Hobie H crate behind me, I can fit like 6 or 7. I don't even know what the size are, but they're like the large tackle boxes I can fit in there. And on that, I have another 3. I have another 12 spaces on that, but I obviously don't fill it up. I don't take 24 rods out with me. But next week I will probably have 18. I will probably bring all 18 rods out just because I want to have them just in case. I don't want to go back to the ramp and waste time. Judge me as you will. It's fine. But rod storage, it's pretty straightforward with that. A lot of the horizontal, as many as I can horizontally, so they're not in the back and in the way. Propulsion system is like, again, 360 drive, pedal drive, tackle storage. I have the H crate, which I can fit a lot into, but I also have a Hobie backpack on my seat where I can put some different smaller boxes into. So like if I'm going for smallies, I'll have like a Ned box in there or a swim bait head box in there. And in between my, I think Zach, yours has this too. Like in between your legs, you have like your plastic storage. It's like almost like a little hatch that you can open up, add a bunch of different plastics in there. And then at the front, you have a giant front hatch where you can either install accessories, more plastics, whatever have you. And then below, I have a 19 amp battery.
I put all my soft plastics in my hatch up front, like you just mentioned, the front hatch. That's where all my soft plastics go. I got them organized in Ziploc bags. But the Hobie, it's the H-rail tackle bin. I think that's what they're calling it. H-rail.
Something like that. Yeah, it's like a little.
You put it on the side. That's where I keep my pliers, and my frequently used baits, I like to call them. It gets a lot of junk put in there. My leader for all of my spinning rods is in there. I like it. It's just a little box that mounts on your H rail, but that's a must-have for a Hobie kayak for sure.
Heck yeah! And I have that 19 amp lithium that draws to a Lowrance HGS9, but that's going to be gone soon. I got a really cool rig coming through. Basically, I'm switching over to Humminbirds, and I say that with a plural because I have a Helix 9 and Helix 10 coming, and we're slapping 360 on the PA12, so it's going to be a pretty tricked out rig. So look forward to some videos on how to set that all up and me actually using that. I'm pretty psyched for that.
How many screens are you going to have?
All of them, boy.
All the screens. I'm gonna have 6 Helix 10s.
It's gonna be like a Humminbird command.
Yeah, no room to cast whatsoever.
Yeah,
No,
They're
I'll
all
have
synced for 2D, so you got top and bottom. So it's got 3 on the bottom. You'll see the bottom, and then the top will be like the top 15 feet, just irrelevant.
They're both Gen 4s. I will have a Helix 9 at my side to run side imaging, mapping, down imaging, and that on the front where Hobie has the mast mounting option, I'm going to have the Gen 4 Helix 10 that's going to run 360 the whole time. So it's going to be out of the way. So it's not even going to be in my way whatsoever. So nothing's even changing. I'll have the 360 transducer right behind me on my right hip. So that's out of the way. And it'll be on a swing option so I can swing it up if I'm going to go like pedal a decent ways. So I don't want it dragging, getting in the way, slowing me down. Like it's going to be cool. And I'm pretty excited to make those videos. I'm going to head down and Ryan over at Morgan Marine, him and I are going to film some videos of setting that up. So Steve, if you're into those kayak setup videos, we actually got a decent amount on our channel. Check those out. And then we're obviously going to come out with some pretty cool rigging option videos with Humminbird. So yeah, I guess a little news drop for everybody. But also another news drop, I guess while we're dropping a whole bunch of news for everybody, is I'm moving out to Andrew's neck of the woods in August. It is confirmed, so we can obviously talk about it now. Yeah, I'm moving to the good old city of Buffalo in August. So unfortunately, I'll be away from my favorite lake in the world. But I'm willing to make
You'll have a new favorite lake, don't worry.
If you're not too busy guiding every damn day, you can take me out. I'm just kidding.
So
let's see. We got 2 more questions here, and then we will wrap things up. So Bailey and Zach, what's the dream boat here? Skeeter, Nitro, Triton?
no love here for me. Jeez.
We've taken reign over this podcast.
Sorry, Andrew. See you later, buddy. Bye.
Easy boys. Easy boys.
No, Andrew, get in on this because I think I can probably guess what you'd want as a dream rig. But I think this is something we talked about too. So like the dream from, I guess I'll go first here. I always wanted to get into bass boat. That's been the goal from day one. But like I've found a huge passion for kayak fishing, and I think Zach's is going to be very similar in our explanations here. I will always have a kayak. I'll always have a place for kayak fishing. But like a PHX 21, the sounds of that would be absolutely awesome one day if I could afford it. But that is the end goal. But what about you, Zach?
I like those Phoenixes. Those are some pretty sweet boats. But my definition of being able to afford something's different than most people's. You know, like I've got plenty of friends that've got bass boats, but they can't afford to fish tournaments because they got so much money they got to spend on their bass boat. That's why I have a kayak, because I can afford to compete so many different tournaments out of a kayak. And I would like to eventually move on to a boat and fish bass boat tournaments, but I want to save up enough money kayak fishing to do that. That'd be a cool way to work my way up, So
Heck yeah.
And kayak fishing's just made me so much of a better bass fisherman, I think. So this probably the best route I could ever take to try to get into like the professional side of bass boat fishing.
That's a great take. Andrew? Is
Well,
it a legend?
Man, that was like my dream probably 4 years ago before Johnny Morris and White River Marine bought out Legend and discontinued them and started building Tritons in the Legend warehouse and manufacturing plant. And Charles, I did hint at that, but I'm probably not going to buy a Triton again. I want something a little faster. And honestly, my dream rig isn't even 20 or 21 foot. I want something in the high 19s just because it's serviceable. It does everything you can. And on the Great Lakes, I find it's easier to maneuver some of the bigger waves actually in a smaller boat because I have more cutting capability. So I can cut waves and get in the troughs a little easier than that 20 or 21 footer. So I'm going to say my dream rig right now is probably a 19 PHX. Just rigged. Because I love fishing. I love fishing super shallow too. And the way I fish docks is different than everybody else. So with a 20 or 21 foot boat, I might not be able to fish docks a certain way. So that's another reason why I want a smaller boat. It's actually between a 19 PHX or a Bassmaster Kayak National. Like those are the two rigs I'm looking at.
Interesting.
Heck yeah.
Here's a question for you, Andrew. From Dean here. Best starter watercraft, doesn't plan on going down the lower Niagara, but wants to go around the harbor, maybe dabble with the Finger Lakes.
Honestly, you can buy like a bass tracker with like a 40 or 50 horse just to get you going for 10 grand, 8 to 10 grand. You probably find a good used one for 4 to 6 grand. Flat bottom aluminum. I mean, a lot of people start there and catch the crap out of them. It's a good way to get acclimated with the bass fishing platform. Also, getting acclimated using a foot-propelled trolling motor, making your own decisions. You could put really good graphs on it if you want. It has live wells, fish derbies out of them. That's where I would start, is like a 16 to 18-foot aluminum boat with a 50 to 150 horse motor.
Yeah, and you can ding it up. Not like a fiberglass, you know.
Yeah.
Make a few mistakes and you won't have to pay so dearly for it.
That is true.
It's very true. Well, Zach, we're gonna let you go here in a second, buddy. Is there anything you want the folks to know before obviously this weekend on Sam Rayburn or before the national championship next week?
Say a prayer for your boy. I need some AOI points. Always want to win, you know, but hoping just to finish strong.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, good luck, buddy. Obviously, good luck at Sam Rayburn. Stay safe. I'll be calling you on my trek down. But obviously, I'll see you on Sunday.
Sounds good. Good talking to y'all.
Yeah, get some rest. You got a hike still to go to get to old Sam Rayburn. So
yeah, I'm too excited. I might not sleep.
Well, good luck, buddy. Drive safe. Yeah, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. See y'all later.
See you, dude. Dude, I'm excited, but very much so not excited for 22 and a half hour drive starting Thursday morning. So can you see Zach's face in the queue?
Yeah. I want to just like poke him in the nose.
Yeah. But yeah, so Thursday morning, I'm leaving at like 3 or 4 in the morning just because I want to get on the road. I already know I'm not going to get any sleep. And I'm just going to put pedal to the metal and get as many miles down. Plan is just to keep driving until I get tired, sleep at a rest stop for an hour or two, and then just keep going. Get there when I can. We got the Airbnb Friday night, so we'll see what happens. But either way, it's our last live. We don't know if we're going to have Monday Night Live next week while I'm in Texas. We'll let you guys know, obviously. And then we're gonna see how she flows. We're gonna have some episodes coming out. I got a couple of fishing videos coming out for folks. Andrew has a jerkbait episode coming out tomorrow, going over his setups for jerkbaits. Andrew is fishing almost all next week, apparently. And so Andrew should have some content coming out for the folks. And hopefully we're going to ramp some more things up. And Andrew and I have some tournaments coming up here very soon. So hopefully we'll have some tournament videos for you guys. But as always, we appreciate you folks. Andrew, do you have anything else left for the folks before we sign off?
Not at this moment. I just, like I always say, tag us in your posts so we can see what everyone is up to. And we always like to reshare that stuff. So, yeah.
Tag us in social media. And guys, look out for, so next week, I'm going to do a whole video series on this trip to the national championship. I'm going to vlog the whole way down. So Thursday, Friday, will be part 1, my travels down to Possum Kingdom, and then I'll have a part 2 where it'll be from practice. So I'll start from Saturday where I'm kind of prepping, kind of getting ready, getting rigged up for practice. I'm going to drive around some different launches. I'll vlog that. And then Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday will all be part of part 2 where it's my practice days. And then part 3 will actually be the tournament itself, Wednesday and Thursday, which is day 1, day 2 of the tournament. So look out for that. I'm going to try to put a lot of effort into filming that. The tournament one, I wouldn't have high expectations for like theatrical parts of that because I'm not wasting any time during tournaments. And then hopefully you'll see a little bit of Friday. Hopefully we make the top 10. Hopefully we win the damn thing. Obviously it's the ultimate goal, but hopefully we get top 10, end up on stage. That'd be pretty sweet. But if you guys are going to the Classic, Zach and I will be at the Classic. So if you guys want to meet up, say hello, grab a beer one of the nights, or just shoot the shit and talk fishing. If I'm not too busy working and Zach isn't working the booth, obviously let us know if you guys are going to be there, and we'd love to meet up with you guys. But I think that's going to do it for tonight. We will see you guys on Friday's episode.